So welcome to TransTuesday, and today's a beautiful day. So I decided to do this outside, and also I'm just squeaking this in between some editing and some other stuff. It's been on my mind a lot, and I think I've talked about it, or like alluded to it a lot in like tweets or even in previous videos. But like, how do we protect trans kids? How do we protect trans adults? So let's get into that today. When we talk about protecting trans lives, protecting trans folks, we're also talking about having access to jobs, jobs that are well paying, not just like bare minimum $9-11 an hour. We're looking at, and that also brings in this conversation of what is an appropriate minimum wage. What is a fair minimum wage? What is a fair wage? We also talk about basic income. Having financial security um, is a huge thing. Like, because if you have that financial security, you have the financial ability to access services, access healthcare, get if you are interested in medically transitioning, having access to gender affirming healthcare in that sense, and a lot of times that's not covered, and a lot of times that costs a lot of money. So looking at when we talk about protecting trans folks, it's not just about coming to trans specific rallies to be an ally. It's looking at in the various things that you're part of, from your workplace to volunteering aspects to your community. How does that all intersect um, when we talk about access to healthcare? And it's not just gender affirming healthcare like medical transition stuff. It's just like having access to doctors that are trained to not ask horrible and shitty and stupid questions that isn't going to try to link every ailment that you have to the fact that you're trans or that you're transitioning. And that, like, accessing healthcare isn't just about accessing healthcare to be able to medically transition. Like, you don't need to have a medical transition to be trans, and not everything is about going from point A to point B. Like, that's a very archaic understanding. Like, that is not what it is about. It's not about trying to fit within what society views as the gender binary, but it's actually talking about what is your own. How do you define your own gender? How do you define what kind of existence do you want? What do you need? And having access to affirming and safer services, and that goes beyond healthcare, and that talks about food security, that talks about security of like where you're going to be living, and being able to continue to build not just what you basic needs are, but to build a life that is thriving, that is full, that is layered. And I think when we talk about trans rights, it's not just about having things enshrined in criminal codes and Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is incredibly important, but it's also remembering that to protect trans kids, we need to protect trans adults, and trans adults need to be able to have access to paying jobs, to fair minimum wage, to access to healthcare, to food, to security, to community, to not being isolated. And I think that is such a big conversation that needs to be happening, that it's layered, that it intersects with all of the other movements, that it's beyond just trans folks need access to gender affirming healthcare. It's more than that. It's more than just using that filter on Facebook for your display picture. It goes beyond that. It requires us to apply our politics, apply our critiques in everyday life. From like I've been seeing a lot recently how people are signing like email signatures and putting pronouns there, not just because like, oh, I'm a trans person, but these are folks with non-gendered names. These are folks that are like You shouldn't be assuming what pronouns are based on what you assume a name is gendered. Like, from those small things that are making this conversation about pronouns the the minimum to larger aspects of societal change. I think that's important. Um, that we need to have this very complex and radical discussion of shifting everything, because it is all connected, and we need to shift and change all of these things to be able to have a safer, better, alive and thriving society. Alright folks, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't yet, subscribe, and feel free to share this on whatever platform with folks. I really appreciate that. I appreciate the support in the community and folks watching this. So I hope you're having a great day. Be safe. Peace.